hello, and welcome to Scoundrels, Inc., your favorite home for all things Star Wars. Today we're going to be discussing The Bad Batch, Episode 3...
Solitary
Soldier.
Clone. Soldier?
Clone?
So, I don't know. Something like that. I don't remember the episode title. Doesn't matter. Look, guys, this is coming out on Thursday, the 12th of... January. Thank you. That's
what is it, speak and spell? What are you guys
that's
doing
the month we're in. But guys, look, if you don't like Bad Batch and you're tuning into this, that's fine. This will be a quick one. But Monday, we got a banger of an episode. Big, long, 2-hour discussion of Star Wars Return of the Jedi, which we unanimously think is the best Star Wars movie.
I don't think that's unanimous.
Don't forget to like, subscribe, hit all those wonderful buttons below. I don't care which buttons you hit, just hit some of them. And then go to our Twitter, our Instagram, and our TikTok. And, hit a like or a follow or a subscribe there. And stay tuned for more Scoundrels coming your way every week, every night, every day. We're here. We're here, and we're family.
Because it's Olive Garden.
Bad Batch.
We're the Olive Garden of Star Wars podcasts.
Unlimited soup, salad, or breadsticks.
I'm a breadsticks guy. Look at me. Do you think I'm a salad guy?
That's a tough question. I'm not gonna lie. I'm between breadsticks and soup. I mean,
you can get a gluten-free chicken parm at Olive Garden now. They give you gluten-free pasta on the side, but the chicken's not breaded. It's just grilled chicken parm.
Huh.
I feel like, I don't know if it's a contamination thing, but they could get gluten-free breadcrumbs if they tried.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. I don't think they want to, though.
No.
But are you gluten-free now?
I'm supposed to be.
It's supposed to.
It's hard. I had a salad earlier today, and after I ate it, I'm like, I feel kind of crappy. And then I looked at the dressing ingredients, and it said wheat on it.
Yeah.
Is it 1,000% gluten?
Anyways, speaking of looking at the ingredients and seeing wheat, guys, this episode we get to follow Crosshair.
Oh, yes, we
do. The homie
Good
Crosshair.
soldiers follow.
So I want to start off.
That's pretty good.
That's really good.
Pretty good, man.
I didn't know I could do that.
Holy crap.
I want to start off by saying I was a bit negative on the Bad Batch this last week.
You were?
This week, oh man, I'm fucking hyped.
What did I tell you before we rolled about what I think about this episode, Sean?
You said that this was your favorite.
One of your favorite
Star Wars, even better than Empire.
Did not say that. I did not say that.
You said this episode of The Bad Batch is even better than Empire.
Did not say that. I
said, it's better than Obi-Wan and Anakin, Crosshair and Cody.
You know what I gotta say,
dude?
They make a great team.
Good pair. I said this is one of my favorite animated episodes of Star Wars ever.
Agreed.
One of.
I agree.
Not the, but one of.
I mean, there's a lot of animated.
You're not
Star
really
Wars.
selling me on Star Wars animation.
Yeah, there's a lot of animated Star Wars. It's definitely in my top 20, top 25.
Easily.
Like, I liked this episode, but this is the cream of the crop. I don't know if I want to watch the rest.
Well, it's the cream of the crop for what this show is.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
Because the problem is this show is not a show,
If I may, if you put it within the clone-centric episodes, this might be in the top 5 for sure.
I like that it was just like all about Crosshair. We didn't see the rest of the
Cody
bad
too,
and Cody, yeah, of course. And like setting up more for Cody in the future.
Yeah.
I like that we kind of took a break from the rest of the Bad Batch.
I agree because I do think, and this had a more serious tone to it. It had a more adult tone. It gave us what I love about the clone episodes in Clone Wars. It almost feels like it's up there with the Umbara arc for me as far as like clone action, and I like that it was nice. 30 minutes of, because it was a little. It wasn't.
It was 30. It was 29. minutes.
It was a full length. Animation. It was a blast, and I loved that. They go to the Soldiers Monument or Heroes. What are they? I have it written down.
I think it was Soldiers Memorial.
Yeah, Soldiers Memorial.
Which is kind of like interesting that the Empire would even have a thing.
Well, so I do want to point out.
Okay.
The wall that we see is not the names of clones, because it's all
would be numbers.
It's all first last.
Yeah.
On the name. I didn't look at what any of the names were. So if you want that, go to another Star Wars podcast that's got the time to do that. We don't got the time to do that. But I'm sure someone has translated that wall for us. But it is all first name, last name.
Okay.
Which means it wouldn't be clones. Because even if they're using their names, they would be using first names only.
Right.
So, but we do have that big statue, that big pillar with the 3 clone troopers on it.
Yeah.
It was just really cool.
Kind of like Jeddah, almost like.
Yeah, it reminded me a little bit of Jeddah as far as that goes. I love the interaction with Rampart and Crosshair.
Oh yeah, very interesting.
And where going a little farther in the episode, but Crosshair refers to CT whatever and
2229 or something like that.
Whatever Cody's clone number is. And he calls him Cody, and Rampart's like, a Cody? I don't know who Cody is.
It's just the number, and he's like, oh, yeah, I know that one.
Yeah, I know that one.
Oh, yeah, that guy.
I got the number memorized.
I know all the numbers.
Yeah. But no, it was a great episode. Desix was a really cool-looking planet. A lot of the shots reminded me of Warhammer 40K.
Okay.
Big hive city with, indentured servants almost, workers just, thriving. Go ahead.
I will say, I do miss the Clankers, man.
Oh,
I miss fighting the Clankers.
Well, what
man.
I was going to say was
so
this episode does such a good job of showcasing the droids.
Oh yeah,
because it shows us each class of droid that we really are well versed in.
Except for super battle droids, we didn't get those.
Was there a shot with super battle droids?
I don't recall seeing one.
Maybe okay.
I think that was the only variation left.
Interesting.
Out. Yeah.
Well,
or one of the variants.
But aside from that, we've got all the other droid units. I mean, as far as the way they use droidicas was great.
Oh hell yeah!
And the way they use those fucking commando droids, because I love the commando.
Dude,
droids.
the commando droids are awesome.
They're a scary freaking droid unit.
Very much so.
And the way they're used in the Clone Wars is sometimes silly because they bounce around. Like the way they bounce around is sometimes a little silly. This felt really tactical the way they moved, and it felt really imposing, right? Because they're doing it to get angles and not just to be bouncy, I think overall, I mean, it was just an action episode, right? Like we don't have
more or less.
We have some stuff we're going to dive into in a minute, but like for the bulk of the episode, it's an action episode. Right?
And I'm generally pretty hard on the action for this series, just because I feel like it's a little too repetitive at times. But this action, I thought, was very inventive for some of the things they were doing.
Yeah,
with Crosshair and Cody teaming up, and as well as some of the other clones and whatnot. Because you had talked about the mirrors stuff was
that was
like
really cool. Yeah.
I think we see those in the Clone Wars with Crosshair.
Okay, but
because Cody's like, where do I throw it? And Crosshair's like, dude, he's like, I'm so good, just
throw
it
hard.
anywhere.
He says, just throw it hard.
As
hard
but
as
I kind of like it's interesting. I don't know if. Like, I want to learn more about these mirrors because, like, obviously it would take 2 very specific angles.
Yeah, I know.
For you to like hit what you want. Thank you, Frank.
I thought about the same thing,
but then maybe I'm like, maybe these are like special mirrors that kind of account for that, and they like move independently a little bit.
Maybe it could also be if they're domed a certain way.
Yeah, I don't know.
If they're convex or concave a certain way, he might be able to angle himself.
Cool.
Either way, it was a really cool little thing that I can't recall seeing. Maybe it wasn't in Clone Wars, but
I think one of the episodes of the Clone Wars had one mirror. I don't think it was used in the same way.
Okay, it was such a cool.
He used it when it was still in the air.
Yeah, which was really cool.
He waited for it to like.
He was like Babe Ruth.
Yeah,
and just like calling it.
My favorite moment was when they're fighting the droidica and one of the clones throws the sticky bomb on the droid. They shock the droid, and then the droid falls into the droidica's shield.
It was great. There was a lot of great inventive
tactics.
He waits for the tank barrel to come all the way down.
Again, I think we've whether or not we've seen that in Star Wars. I've seen that before in other things.
Sure,
but yeah, it was just really
and
cool.
The sound effect too was like sunk.
Yeah.
It was cool because obviously I think you see people throw grenades and stuff in war movies, but he just had a rifle and he just timed it perfectly.
A Crosshair just showed how deadly it is.
He's like Hawkeye with that thing.
Yeah, absolutely.
Hence the name, I guess.
Yeah,
he's like Hawkeye, Bullseye, Deadshot.
I loved the layout of Desix where it's this almost like what you imagine out of Greek or Roman mythology for Greek mythology for Crete, for Minos, which is where the labyrinth is. It very much reminded me of that, where it's this big almost labyrinth like palace, right? The city is all built into itself, and so they have to work their way through it, work their way up, and And I could have seen a whole other. I think you could have done this episode. Not that it had to be, but I think that you could do this episode twice as long and still have interesting things to show in that layout and how they were doing the action.
I like these new like stormtroopers, like with like the proto stormtrooper armor
Yeah,
almost.
so I wanted to talk about that.
Yeah.
Because the helmets are interesting.
Yeah, I kind of dig it.
I dig them too. I think they. Look,
I like 'em.
I think
Yeah.
they look great. They're really they really remind me of the McQuarrie art.
Absolutely, yeah.
But they also remind me. They look a little bit like the which you didn't see Rebels, but in Rebels the Stormtrooper trainees
Oh yeah,
have
yeah,
helmets
that's right.
like that. But these almost look like they're two-piece helmets, like the Vader helmet.
Yeah.
So they remind me of the Vader helmet in that, like that top part looks like a separate piece that could come off, and then the front comes off.
So like obviously they're integrating stormtroopers into the military now.
I got a note on this.
But I mean, do we think that they send the clones in because they still don't have enough stormtrooper volunteers, or
No.
They're just
because
cannon fodder?
Yeah, they just don't care if the clone troopers live or die.
Okay, so I got two notes on this. So first, when we see Crosshair first sit down in
The lunchroom.
In the
cafeteria.
lunchroom.
Which, by the way,
You
the
o-
ambient sound in that thing, I was like, yo, that's just like generic cafeteria like atmosphere. And I thought it was so interesting to be just in this setting.
right,
It just was really interesting.
But we do overhear some of the clones talking about. I think it was like a military enlistment act or the military
Yes.
enlistment program, and how let's hope that doesn't pass.
Right.
The second thing was it's pretty clear how they're using the clones and the stormtroopers differently. I think there is something to be said about your point of view that it's possible that they're using the clones as disposable. But what I think it is the clones are still fighting a war. The stormtroopers are occupation troops.
Yes.
So that's definitely the way, because the way it's framed at the end of the episode,
Yeah.
you have the clones leaving the planet while the stormtroopers are being dispatched onto the planet. So the clones are still there to fight wars. They're still there to conquer and take enemy-held positions, whereas the clone troopers are there as a occupying police force, because the necessity for stormtroopers is not to fight a war. They're a unit of fear. It's almost as if you put clones doing the jobs that you're having stormtroopers doing, they're over-equipped for it, and they're going to get bored, and they're not suited for occupation duties.
Right.
Whereas stormtroopers are just normal people, and right
Or
now
fanatical about the Empire.
well, but right now not necessarily, and right now they're not necessarily even trained to fight to the level.
None of them have seen combat, more or less, right?
So yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So I think that's the difference. I actually have had that written down. It's funny that you brought that up because I had that written down. I'm like, I find that so interesting that we're seeing the difference in how they use the two units.
Yeah.
I thought that was super cool.
Yeah, I like seeing more of Cody. I like we kind of see this like character development of him and him still trying to do things the old ways, like the way that you
By the book?
Yeah, like the Republic,
Yeah.
we can reach a peaceful resolution. And
Oh, man.
the new governor saying no, executor. Like
Yeah.
Let's get
this is
into
how we
that
roll
scene.
now, baby.
Yeah, let's get into that scene because this is where Cody is, he's had a conversation with Crosshair already, about
When they first meet
clones are
up,
talking about, whether or not Order 66 is, and so there's this talk of like, or at least there seems to be a thought within Cody of like, man, was Order 66 like the right way to go about
and he
things?
says a lot of soldiers had doubts after
Yeah.
Order 66.
Which really is an interesting question about if the chip, just how much control does that chip have and for how long? And you would think at some level the Empire would know like the duration of how powerful that those chips are, or if maybe they don't know. I don't know.
Well, there's an episode in the Clone Wars where they're kind of investigating that a little bit with fives. I mean, it's a biochip, so hypothetically it would be absorbed once it's served its purpose. It's probably absorbable by the biology, but it's very interesting, right? Because it seems like once they triggered, they only have a certain amount of effectiveness. And I'm wondering if they're removing some chips as like a method of like, hey,
maybe. I don't
you've
know.
served that purpose already. Now this is almost a liability.
Yeah, because
right?
like they all got to know they've been chipped at this point, right?
Yeah, I think they all understand
So
that
like,
they've been
so
chipped.
like, what does that do to then to a clone's
whether
mind?
whether or not they're actually chipped, they all have to understand that there was some form of programming there.
Yes,
Right.
Yeah.
And yeah, I don't think it's healthy for the clones to have gone through that, because even like that first shot, like the way they linger on Cody and the look on Cody's face, which amazing that they can accomplish.
Oh,
that in animation.
That's actually really good to point that out, because that shot actually, I was like, man, this is like, whoa, this is a way more cinematic shot than you normally get with this type of show.
Yeah, it was done so well, and I think that's maybe what I like about this episode. The characters in this episode were they're cartoons, but they're not cartoonish.
Right.
And the Bad Batch is a little bit cartoonish, right? They're a little bit one note, like the actual Clone Force 99. They're a little bit one note. They're a little bit, satirical.
A little goofy,
maybe not the right word,
yeah.
but they're a little goofy. They're the Ninja Turtles. Whereas here, Cody is a fully fleshed out character from the Clone Wars, right? And they kind of made Crosshair a pretty deep character in this, but you also don't have to do as much when you have a mostly silent character in Crosshair.
And when Rampart's talking to Crosshair, he's like, yo, we left you there for dead. And you're still walking around these halls, like waiting for an assignment? All right, I got something for you.
Can you say, I am a loyal soldier of the Empire?
I am a loyal soldier of the Empire.
Yeah, that was great.
It kind of gives me a little Thrawn vibes, his voice.
A little Thrawn. I mean, he's the,
What about
cold-blooded.
Cody?
Yeah. Cold-blooded killer archetype, right? Like,
Sure.
I mean,
sure.
he's such a great character.
But I do like that Cody's getting the wheels spinning in Crosshair.
Yeah, and we'll get to that, I think.
Why not now?
Because I think we don't have a lot to talk about on this episode anyways, so
Yeah, that's
let's
what I'm
save that for... Okay, sure.
That's what I'm saying. But yeah, sure. Whatever.
Cody defects. He goes AWOL.
End of episode. Yep.
End of episode.
Do we? I haven't watched Rebels. Do we know what happens to Cody?
No, this is our first time seeing
Okay.
Cody.
So that's interesting.
Yeah, this is our first time seeing Cody. There is some implication that Cody, and I don't know where this comes from. I think this comes from either legends or just speculation. There was some speculation that Cody would be helping train the new stormtroopers. It doesn't seem like that's the,
Yeah, that's
but it
not
definitely
good.
seems like when he tells him, yeah, Cody went, CT 22222294567.
2OD.
Yeah, no. Yeah, 2OD. No, he's not a droid. But yeah, when Cody has gone AWOL, it does seem like Crosshair almost has a moment of like reflection upon hearing that, because
Like he should have saw it coming. Like, oh,
You're like, you
Well,
can
no,
do
almost
that?
like that. Maybe he's wondering, because to me, Cody, if you contrast Cody and Rex, right? Like Rex is a little bit more of a loose cannon in the same way that Anakin is than Cody, and
Yeah.
so Cody is kind of this exemplary good soldier.
We hear him in this episode say, "Good soldiers follow orders."
Sure.
He says it to Crosshair.
Yeah, he does. And it's to know that Cody has gone AWOL, it's kind of saying a lot. And I think for me, I took that as a moment of reflection from Crosshair of like, if Cody can go AWOL, anyone could,
yeah.
right? Maybe because when we left, Crosshair in the last episode, Crosshair was still resolved to fight with the Empire and fight for the Empire. But there was still a little bit of that reflection of, maybe we are going to see a redeemed Crosshair.
And then you're like, well, then he kills the mayor.
Yeah, that doesn't bug me about his redemption arc.
No,
right?
it doesn't bug me either. But it just it's more or less what it means for Cody in that moment.
Because Cody didn't have to. I thought the same thing. Cody didn't have to make the decision to kill someone that he had just accepted a surrender for.
Right.
Crosshair made that decision for him and made it so that Cody was still.
Crosshair almost did him a favor.
You-
Crosshair
Yeah,
did do him a
I
favor.
see it as Crosshair doing it.
Yeah. Do we think that consciously Crosshair did it to protect Cody?
I think maybe a little bit.
I don't think so. I think Crosshair's still trying to continually trying to prove his worth to the Empire.
So I see it as maybe a little bit, Brandon. I think that it's possible that he was making it so Cody didn't have to make that decision. If anything, that seems uncharacteristic of Crosshair, because I still think Crosshair would be someone who would want to see Cody prove it, right? Yeah, I don't know. It's super, super interesting. I will say, Cody looks bitchin' with the gray tint to his armor instead
Oh,
of the yellow.
sure.
I at first I was like, oh, it's kind of boring. They got rid of the yellow, and then the more they showed it, I'm like, that's a good look.
It's pretty sweet.
That design of the helmet looks really good with the gray, and a little bit of design in the gray was really good. I always pick up on the visual shit.
You do.
Sorry.
No. I think I love all the designs really in some form or some shape or form.
But I also want to point out, Nova went Nova.
Yes.
I laughed so hard when the clone trooper named
my
Nova
gosh.
exploded.
Yeah.
I thought that was great.
That was funny. But man, like that whole, again, that sequence of Crosshair, Cody, and that other Imperial, I forget his name, with the hostage situation, you know, that was such governor. That was such. It was pretty intense for what is still a kids show, right? And I think we've talked about it. Will Bad Batch follow the same type of trajectory? Where does it get a little bit more older, a little more mature, a little more darker, like the other series have with Clone Wars and Rebels? And like, this is an indication that Bad Batch can go in that direction. I don't expect next week to also be super dark like this either, but I think it lets me know that, we're going to get into some heavy stuff, especially when Crosshair comes back into the picture with Cody and the Bad Batch, the rest of those guys. So, like, there's still more heavy stuff to be had in future episodes, I feel like, but we still will get some feel-good, jovial, stories as well.
I think I just have a little bit of a problem when they oscillate so heavily between the two, right? It's not a subtle shift between, it's just like, hey, last episode, like, there was some deeper stuff going on in the last two episodes, but like, it was not the same tone remotely.
Sure.
You know? And not that I think that a show should keep the same tone throughout the whole thing.
Did you notice the music in this episode?
I didn't.
It's very reminiscent of the last 4 episodes of Clone Wars.
Interesting.
That
vibe, I felt like
that Blade Runner vibe.
This episode, I think
Vibroblade.
I think you could change the context of this episode a little bit, and it's a Clone Wars episode, and I mean that in a good way, right? Yeah. Like it feels like
it should be able to feel like that because we are dealing with this is an extension of that.
Yeah. And it's an extension of that, but I don't feel like the rest of the series has done that well.
Go back and listen to the music in this
well,
episode. It's outstanding. Kevin Kiner again is outstanding.
Like everything, I rewatch it with Jill because she doesn't want to stay up till midnight and watch it. So, I fucking loved it. I mean, it's great.
Another thing I'd like to point out is the rightful governor of the planet, not the Imperial one, but the one that was holding a blaster to his head. When she lets him go, it seems to me like she let him go knowing that she was gonna die, like this. But she wanted to see the conflict in Cody. Like she wanted, because Cody's like sitting there going like, "Oh, the Empire is peaceful and order, and like we're gonna reach a peaceful resolution," and she knows that's not the case, and she's like, "I'm going to show this trooper that the Empire is not peaceful by sacrificing my own life in front of him."
That's interesting.
And then
I don't know that I agree.
And then maybe that spreads.
I mean, she's
a moral message, one person at a time throughout the galaxy.
She was going to die no matter what.
Yeah. To me, I was reading it as kind of like she wanted to see if, hey, maybe I am wrong, right?
Maybe, yeah.
But it's worth it to find out. That's how I read it. But I like that take that. I just don't know that everyone's going to see clones that way, especially not separatists.
Right.
But I mean, it was super. This reminds me of like when the Rebels fought the battle droids, right? Like it harkens back to the Clone Wars in an interesting way, and intentionally so, right? Like it shows that the Empire doesn't have complete control yet, and it's doing that thing of the early days of the Empire that I really liked when they were done in the first season, maybe even more so than some of the other stories they tell in the first season. So I was very happy with this episode. Very, very happy.
Yeah, I'm curious to see next week's episode and see how they build off of this. If this episode will pick up, from like, will we see Cody next episode? I don't know. Probably not. But
no, I think we'll see him. I think we'll see because we know that Rex is going to contact the Bad Batch.
Right.
So I think it's going to have to do with that.
Okay, that'd be cool too. I mean, that's gonna be like there's gonna be I think a lot more interesting stories like this one. ahead in the series.
Well,
I
it's
hope.
it's just like Rebels, right? The first season of Rebels is a little bit piecemeal, just like the first season of the series was, and this season seems like it's getting into a little more of the meat of what their overall plot line is going to be.
Yeah.
And I'm very excited to see where that goes.
Yeah, I'm really invested in Crosshair as a character because he's right now at this crossroads of which way is he going to. I mean, we all know that if he continues with the Empire, he's going to get burned by the Empire. Like they're going to, waste him one way or another, right?
Yeah, I mean, I'm still of the opinion. I think we'll see a redemption from him. I don't know in what way, but I think we will.
And we'll see if he lives long enough to,
Yeah.
or live after the redemption. Which,
I don't think he will.
yeah, exactly.
Maybe he's going on a new mission. Maybe on his new mission, he's in a similar situation, but this time he points the blaster at the Imperial officer.
We could definitely see.
Well, I think we'll see
other clone commander. Or something.
No, I think his mission is going to be to go after
Cody.
The Bad Batch.
Oh, yeah.
Right, because that's kind of.
I think Rampart wants to test his loyalty.
Right,
he's going to continue to test the loyalty.
Yeah,
of
Rampart
Crosshair.
Rampart wants Crosshair to fail. Rampart's trying to prove that, and he has been since season 1. He's trying to prove that the clones are not fit.
Yeah.
For service. So, it's an interesting take on an Imperial commander, and I really like it.
Yeah. He's an interesting dude.
But
he's pretty dark.
He's very dark, yeah, and I really like him as a character.
And just the whole way he acknowledges Crosshair, just always on his data pad.
Yeah, well, they're a tool because here's the thing, right? There's this idea that how do in Star Wars you can almost tell the value of a character on the way they treat droids.
Sure.
The Empire doesn't treat droids like people. That's why, Iden does not give her probe droid a name until she joins the rebellion, right? And I don't remember what that name is.
Yeah, I forget.
But it doesn't matter. It's not the name isn't the point. These Imperial officers are viewing the clones in the same way they view the droids, right? And there's that line from Cody. Cody says that's the difference between us and droids.
Yeah. Yeah.
He says
we can
we have to live with our decisions.
Yeah.
Right? And the droids don't. We can make our own decisions and we have to live with our decisions.
We have to live with them, yeah.
Because it's important, and something that's established in the Clone Wars is that the clones are individuals, right? The droids are not, and that's what makes the difference.
I like that line too because it's such a shot at Crosshair as well.
Sure. Yeah. But also it goes to hammer down that point of the Imperials do not see the clones as people.
Yeah.
They see them as no better than droids. And Rampart does not treat the clones any better than droids, right?
It's interesting to me that, like, for them to see the clones as, like, unfit for the Imperial military. I mean, they won the Clone Wars, and they eradicated the Jedi.
Right.
Right.
That seems like a pretty good resume to me.
Yeah, I agree. I agree.
Like, they are fully capable, but the Empire cannot rely on them due to the fact that all these troops are going AWOL.
But you also have to remember there's going to be some number of Imperial stormtroopers, especially once they start conscripting them, instead of just enlisting them, that are also going to go AWOL or be disagreeable.
Yeah. There's always that.
The point of this is not to show why the Empire thinks the clones are unfit. It's to explain the jump between clones and stormtroopers, which, by the way, a couple weeks ago, I was talking to a buddy of mine who's not a big Star Wars fan. He likes Star Wars. He knows Star Wars. And he had mentioned, by the way, Mono, if you're listening to this, I'm talking about you.
Hey, what's up?
He had mentioned he didn't realize that the stormtroopers weren't clones. Because it's not really spelled out in the movies, right?
That's true. Yeah.
In the movies,
maybe they just change uniforms.
And especially when Leia says, "Aren't you a little short for a stormtrooper?" Right? Like as if they're all the same height.
Because she was expecting bigger Luke.
Right, she was expecting bigger Luke.
Wasn't.
Well, you know what movie has some great bigger Luke evidence?
Oh, good Lord.
Return of the Jedi.
We should talk about that.
Stay tuned Monday for us to talk about Return of the Jedi. I think it's a great discussion.
Didn't we promote that at the beginning of this?
Yeah, but I'm going to promote it again. So seamless promotion, Brandon. It's all about branding, seamless promotion. You know what they say? ABC.
Never underestimate.
Always be.
Come promoting.
Yeah, well, I will say about the Stormtroopers versus Clone Troopers thing. I mean, stormtroopers are just like easier to like. It's easier to just get all these people.
Well, it's also
to
they're
enlist.
easier to replace. They're probably less expensive.
They're
to be
cheaper.
honest.
They're cheaper than clones. They have to write the Kaminoans a check every month.
Well, well, to be fair, they still have to pay payroll for the stormtroopers. The clones. So that's an interesting point, right? The clones are probably cheaper.
Yeah.
With an existing cloning facility, but since that doesn't exist anymore, now the stormtroopers are cheaper.
Yeah.
So
it's complicated. They also don't want like a whole species of people that make they're making the clones. You don't know what like what juices they're putting in this clone cocktail.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like they don't know. The Empire doesn't have full control, even if they want to. Even if they have the inhibitor chips in the back of their heads, they're like,
"It's an illusion. You never had control."
That's the
illusion.
That's the wait. No.
Yeah, that's the illusion.
They could be putting fluoride in the Jedi. Hey guys,
and it activates the lysine, right? Lysine rich.
Real quick.
The lysine deficiency.
We got some questions.
On an island that's rich in plants that are full of lysine.
We got some questions. So I'm gonna go with the question about Bad Batch first.
Sure.
From my favorite name to say on the show, IT Mama.
Okay, that's what. Yep, we've established.
Ichuta.
Do you think so? Spoilers for the Bad Batch. By the way, spoilers for this question will spoil Bad Batch.
Episode 3.
Episode 3. Right. Do you think the clones have the ability to rationalize the chip-based decisions in hindsight? Cody seemed genuinely traumatized by his actions, and it almost seems as if he blamed himself for Order 66. We know a lot about the clones that took their chips out, but it's scary to think about all these decent people just believing they're monsters. Mm-hmm. So this goes back to what you asked. Do the clones know about the chips? I don't know if they know about the chips.
Right? Like you would. There's whispers that they'll be like, "Hey, Rex got his chip taken out."
But they have to know that something's wrong. Like they follow the order because they're programmed to, but afterwards, like Cody said, they got to live with their decision.
Well, I do think there would
they
be
got to sit with it.
I do think there would be some number of clones that are loyal enough to the Republic / Empire to follow the order without the chip.
I wonder what generation of clone, like what batch of clone, or more.
I don't know.
And some of them will go, yeah, I believe the Empire, I believe the Emperor, the Jedi. The Jedi were staging a coup.
Remember, the Clone Wars very much focuses on the clones that were directly working with the Jedi.
Yeah,
there's a lot more clones than that, right? A lot of them didn't necessarily know the Jedi on a personal level in the same way. They would probably see them being heroic on the battlefield in the distance, but a lot of them fought wars without Jedi right by their side.
But someone like Cody has doubts afterwards. Right. Like he's like, all right, yeah, shoot at Obi-Wan. I missed. Way to go, Cody.
So kind of a lame answer to your question, but I don't know if they have the ability to rationalize the decisions made while under the chip. I don't think so. I don't think so. Yeah. I don't. Based on what we see in Rebels with Wolf and Gregor, it seems like no. Right? It seems like it definitely, because Wolf and Gregor got their chips removed later on, but they still executed Order 66, and they were still under the effects of that. And it does seem like they're very scarred by that, by that occurrence. And it does seem like Cody definitely also is scarred by that. I mean, he gave that fucking 1,000-yard stare at the memorial, you know?
Yeah. He's been thinking about it for sure, you know?
Yeah. So I don't know. I think that's something we're going to explore this season, and I'm excited for that.
Yeah.
But I my gut says no, they don't have the ability to actually rationalize it.
What else? Do we have any other questions?
We do. And this is a controversial question.
Ooh.
So I'm going to go to Nep-Nep's question first.
Cool.
Kevin's not here.
Oh, yeah.
Nep-Nep, do me a favor. Yell at Kevin for us. Because he still is on the hook for your question.
That's right. He is. We haven't forgot. We just need him to be here, you know?
Right. From Johnny Champagne, John Booze.
Hell yeah.
John Booze himself, or as I like to call him, Johnny Champagne.
I love it.
What is your stance on gray Jedi?
Wow.
Like I said, controversial question, Frank. Do they exist, or are they just Jedi who are one bad day away from unlimited power? Can you balance the light and the dark? So, I want to approach this. I
feel like you have a lot to say on this. Can I just go
first?
first?
Why don't you take this first?
Yeah. So I don't believe gray Jedi exist. I think there is the light and there is the dark. And I think as it pertains to... That's more of like... If Jedi were actually real, like it was a real thing in our world, then probably. But for the mythology that was in Star Wars, I don't think a gray Jedi would exist. I don't think you would have... You would have someone in the middle, but I wouldn't call them a Jedi. A Jedi
Would you call them the Bendu?
Bendu's not a Jedi, so perhaps.
But he says, I am the Bendu. I'm
right.
the one in the middle.
So I say perhaps, yeah. I don't think you can be a gray Jedi. You are either a Jedi or you're not. So I think that's kind of more of an absolute type of deal. I don't think...
You know, Frank.
Yes, I know what I said.
Only the Sith deal in absolutes.
Yeah. So no, I don't think a gray Jedi is a thing.
Yeah, I was going to say it depends on how you describe it, but I think the question did a good job of like someone balancing the light and the dark. Because to me, like the Jedi and the Sith are religions. Just because you're a light side user doesn't make you a Jedi. Just because you're a dark side user doesn't make you a Sith. Ahsoka, after she leaves the Jedi Order, is no longer a Jedi. Kylo Ren is not a Sith. But one uses the light and one uses the dark, and it's easy to look, maybe Ahsoka is a gray Jedi because she's not part of the Jedi Order and she has like white lightsabers that are pretty badass. But like at the end of the day, she doesn't use the dark side. So like by that definition, she's also not a gray Jedi. And I don't know. I think it's an interesting question. I feel like you can like dabble, Luke force chokes, Rey shoots lightning. You could like dabble a little bit, but I feel like if you try to use both, like kind of Yoda's warning comes to fruition that once you go down that dark path, forever will it dominate your destiny. You start dabbling with the dark side, you're going to fall down that path and it's going to find a way to consume you because it's like this disease and it like spreads.
If there was a gray Jedi, you wouldn't last very long as a gray Jedi, I feel like, because of what you're saying. You would eventually teeter over to the dark then if you're dabbling. Like it's, I don't
But maybe you teeter back.
Maybe. So like, I don't know, you could be definitively a gray Jedi for like...
There needs to be...
What's the half-life of a gray Jedi?
there needs to be a balance in the Force, but that balance,
doesn't reside in one person.
Okay,
No,
so Frank, you said I had a lot to say about it, but you both covered everything I was going to say excellently.
Look at that.
So here's what I'll say. Johnny, I'm going to say this because you're my friend, and I like you. And also, this is not my response is not going to be pointed at you. It's pointed at the question. I think there's an inherent flaw in the question. Can there be a gray Jedi? No, because Jedi are Jedi. Sith are Sith, right? Brandon's absolutely right. They're religion. Can there be a gray Force user? Yes, I think so. I think it's more complicated than that, though. Because we see the Bendu in Rebels who says, I am the Bendu. I am the one in the middle. He is neither light nor dark. He is both. He embodies both concepts. The question becomes, is the Bendu mortal? Can there be a mortal Force user that balances both light and dark? I don't believe so. And for exactly what you guys said, once you start down the dark path, forever will it dominate your destiny. I don't agree with that out of Yoda because, again, that's absolutism. And I think it's a little bit more complex than that. I think the problem with the dark side is it's quicker, easier, more seductive, as Yoda says. I think is a better way of saying it. So once you start beginning to tap into that dark side energy, unless you cut it off, you're going to keep tapping into it more and more. You're going to keep going, well, maybe just a little bit of lightning here. Right? And then next time it's more lightning, more choking, more killing, right? More hate and anger driving your decisions. But at the same time, I don't think the emotionless state the Jedi hold themselves in is necessarily the right method either. And we see with the High Republic Jedi and the Clone Wars era Jedi that they're not necessarily, emotionless, but sometimes they cut off, the simple joys in life that they need to remember. Hey, these are the things that make us human. And I'm using human in a very loose term, make us a sentient mortal, right? You need that humanity from the stance of being a good guy, right? Because there's a difference between being in the light and being a good guy. You know, Star Wars hasn't really explored that in a big way, but this is present in a lot of other mediums where you might have someone who's in the light, but their actions aren't good. You know, they're following the path of the light and what makes them a good person. But Mace Windu is not a good person. Mace Windu kind of sucks, you know? So actually, I think Mace Windu is our example of that, right? And yeah, in Legends, Mace Windu had a little bit of the thing where he tapped into the dark side and used the dark side to be a great lightsaber guy. That's dumb, right? Mace is a bad person because he's so strict in following the teachings of the Jedi Order. And that's what makes you that's what makes you a Jedi. Yeah. Being a gray Jedi means that, like Anakin, you're shirking those responsibilities. So arguably, Anakin is your gray Jedi because Anakin used both the light side and the dark side. The problem is once he started using the dark side, he slowly slipped until he wasn't gray anymore. He's just black.
Yeah.
Right? The Force in Star Wars is black and white. Do I think we have some examples of people that use both? I do. But I think whenever we see those characters, they're either slipping away from the light side and into dark, or shirking off the dark side in order to embrace the light. I think the only time we can actually see a gray Jedi, quote unquote, is when they're in transition into another state of being either a dark side user or being redeemed.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
Right? So I think the problem is with the question. If we're looking at a gray Force user, yeah, we have examples of that. The only good example we have is the Bendu, right? And the father on Mortis.
Yeah.
But again, neither of those are mortal.
Yeah.
You know, free. Mm-hmm. Neither of them are mortal, and you could argue the father on Mortis doesn't have free will, even. Right, like
I think that's completely outside of the scope of
but that's
the Jedi.
My, but that's my point,
yeah,
right?
Yeah.
My point is, if I approach the question from the idea of a Force user, then yeah, you can have great Force users, but not free will decision making, you know, with choice and emotion in the same way that a human does. Once you get into aliens and, you know, extra dimensional beings, then yeah, you can have that. But when we're talking about humans or very near human
mortals,
no, you cannot. You know, and again, I'm kind of coming at this from a fantasy standpoint, right? Like, you know, the Force.
But I think,
to quote Han Solo, that's not how the Force works.
But I think even just like apply it into your own life. If you do, you know, bad things, you know, like if I steal from the 7-Eleven every once in a while, that's, you know, no big deal. But then I'm like, well,
why am I buying anything at all?
Yeah, well, I just steal all the time then.
Right.
What are you admitting to, Frank?
But you know what I'm saying? So like,
he's admitting why he doesn't start down the dark path.
Right, because it just leads into more temptation, more, you know, it's quicker and easier to steal than it is for me to go make and earn money at my job. I can just, you know, so like you're dabbling in the dark side in your own real life, and that will eventually, I'm not in the middle, you know, only because I do it a little bit.
It's an emotional tug of war. Also, to use the dark side, you have to be angry,
right,
and hateful.
And that's
the
part
dark side, and the light side requires peace and tranquility.
Yeah, that's part of the issue, right? Yeah, you can tap into the dark side with moments of anger, but now that you've tapped into it, well, what if next time I just get a little more angry, or what if I let that anger in, or not wall it off, right? The problem is the Force is such an emotional power source from a magic system perspective. God, we're gonna have this metaphysics of the Force episode.
You better
one day.
Start planning it out.
I know. I need a
syllabus.
I know. I do.
All right, I think it's gonna wrap it up here. Unless we have another question.
Well, my question is: are you guys excited for Monday?
I am.
Yeah.
Is Return of the Jedi your favorite?
No.
Okay. Well, okay, guys.
I like it a lot.
Here's what we're gonna talk about Monday: Yub Nub or the celebration theme. Jedi rocks, lofty neck. Eyebrows, no eyebrows. Weird tentacle beaky thing, boring ass Sarlacc. You tell us, guys. And stay tuned for our answers and much more fun on Monday. Guys, like, subscribe, tune in next Thursday for more Bad Batch. And every Monday we're tackling the Star Wars saga films.
Skywalker saga.
Well, this is
because when we get to Mando, then we're done for a little bit.
well, but those aren't right.
Anyways,
But
we're tackling the movies.
The
We're talking about
Skywalker
the
saga
movies.
is the saga films.
And who's gonna
I guess, yeah.
who's gonna tackle those movies? Someone that loves you.
Scoundrel. Scoundrel. I like the sound of that.